There is a podcast about an island in the North Atlantic where people have been looking for an incredible treasure for more than 200 years.
Hello and welcome back to Could It Be?
An Oak Island podcast.
We are your hosts, Deidre and Dustin White.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
It's good to be back.
Yes.
We've this podcast is a labor of love.
It
and
is.
It's sure like this one in particular today took us a while to get to. It seems like it feels like
goodness, yes.
we've had a real busy week.
We've had a busy week. I've been working a lot. It's December. We're all getting closer to Christmas, and I feel like there was so much in this episode, just jam packed, hit after hit after hit. I was like, I gotta have good notes.
Yeah. And it took her a long time to get those notes because she's been so busy.
Yes, I'm doing like 12 things at once. I need like 2 more computer screens.
You know how the island needs like 3 or 4 Steves? Like this podcast needs 3 or 4 Deidres.
Yeah.
Or something like
that. For
that.
those of you that don't know, I'm sitting here with 2 computer screens side by side. I feel like if I had 2 more, it would help me complete my plan to take over the world. Like an evil genius.
Yeah.
Plus, I'd get more done in general. Anyways, now that we're done on that tangent.
Yeah, so we had an awesome episode of The Curse of Oak Island this week.
Oh my gosh, alignment!
And building up from the last time we had a podcast, what did we have? We've had our usual trivia.
Yes.
We've had our pregame last week, which was a lot of fun. We
Yes.
didn't have any guests this last week, so we got to just chat, which was great because we haven't really had
We
much
haven't
of that
done
this
that
year.
in a long time.
Yeah, and so but now we've got this awesome episode, season 8, episode 4, alignment, and that alignment is bonkers.
Yeah. And I think you guys, if you're listening or watching this, you know that what we're talking about alignment, we're talking about Corian Mull and Chris Morford's theory, right? And really it's an addition to what we saw from them last year.
Yeah, it's building upon what they had already, think they've found, because it's all theory,
right?
But they've have good reason to be looking in that swamp, and Nolan's Cross was a big part of their theory in their presentation last season, and so to see what they built off of it and what it points to is just like mind-boggling, like
right,
like head exploding kind of stuff.
Did you see the next week on like the most recent preview that came up too?
I didn't.
Oh man, because we're gonna have to talk about that. I got some stuff to talk about.
All right,
Nolan's Cross made me think about that. So.
Yeah. So this episode though does not start with the alignment theory.
Nope.
It does start in lot 15, and it's kind of a weird little moment. It's kind of like the Fellowship, more or less. Getting to the bottom of it and then kind of stepping away, letting the archaeologists finish up what they're doing. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, we've gone as deep as we can here.
Yep.
I think we're going to move our attention elsewhere, but that doesn't mean, because, so we had David McGinnis, right?
Yes.
And he says, I'm standing on Glacial Till right now.
Means
like I'm standing on it.
Hit the bottom.
Yeah, this is it. Right. There's nothing, if we were to keep digging, it'd just be more Glacial Till at this point, like right here. Because
he hits his trowel on it. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So that's where the pine tar kiln stops, right? And so that doesn't mean there's not something like a tunnel way beneath it that was, essentially bored through that area and it wouldn't have touched that Glacial Till. But this is the end of
the kiln as we know it.
The end of the kiln as we know it. That's right.
The episode before then, there was another layer of rocks, and we're like, "What? This doesn't really make sense to be there." Okay, and then because of that, we thought maybe there'd be more. But David, opens up with, "Hey, that's not the case, right? That there's not more underneath this doesn't mean there's not something deeper."
That's true.
My notes say they're checking in with the trowel team.
The trowel team,
which is what they've been dubbed. let's see here. What else? Oh, I wanted to say, so
I
Marty,
like how Marty takes a jab at him later on in the episode, but we'll come back
oh
to
yeah,
that.
we'll come back to that because we had already named him before Marty had on screen.
On screen, but Marty's thing was recorded much earlier.
You know what? Thinking, so Poussin keeps coming round, right?
Yeah, Nicholas Poussin, sure.
Our pregame last year that happened right before that theory was presented, we were showing the Charles Barkhouse trading card where we dubbed him the Keeper of Secrets, and then they brought up Poussin and named him the Keeper of Secrets. So I feel maybe my telepathy is kicking in here. Maybe I can see the future.
Maybe.
Not really. If so, I should figure out how to put that to use.
Yeah. I focus on the lottery numbers or something. Jeez.
Okay. But Marty does ask David, so do you still think this is a pine tar kiln?
He says it's always been a pine tar kiln.
Right?
That's it.
So,
it is.
Nothing has changed there. It's just nothing further beyond that.
I like how Doug pipes up and says that David called it the pit of despair.
I'm really digging David. David. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, David McGinnis is a good character. I like him a lot.
He's a good cast member.
He's definitely a character.
He's also a character. I've got some screen captures of him putting on his headband and prepping up.
I'm gonna go all Rambo on that.
I know,
big site
because I want to be able to have the perfect gif for the moment where someone's prepping for Oak Island. I can throw the David gif in there and he's yeah. I just want him to put war paint on to maybe some glacial till under the eyes. Oh, hardcore. Yeah. Okay, sorry. So alternate universe.
So David called it the pit of despair. What did Doug instead dub it?
The pit of promise.
The pit of promise.
No, I guess he's an optimist.
Better. Yeah. Yep, he is. I mean,
speaking of Corian, he's here. He said, "Good evening." Yeah, it is afternoon here, but evening there. Were your ears burning, Corian? Because we've already talked to you about you.
Yeah, well, we haven't got to your stuff yet, though. And we hope we do it justice.
Exactly.
If you'd like a better understanding of the stuff that Corian and Chris presented last season, go listen to the interview we did with them.
Or even just a refresh. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, because they helped me understand last time. So just saying, it was really good.
Yeah, go back and listen to that interview.
Yeah, it was really, really good. All right, so David McGinnis said that they have charcoal.
Yep.
And they'll need to date it, and that's
it. They're excited. Everybody's excited. Rick goes on to say that, like we had talked about, there could still be a tunnel underneath, but they need to move resources, assets, and people away from this feature because obviously they have a lot of other things to do.
For sure.
So they're like, rally the troops. We got other places to go.
Yep. And so where do they head? They head to the war room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this war room comprised of Rick, Marty, Alex, Craig, and David Irving. And
another David.
They did a recap of the honeycomb design for excavation, and talking about potentially doing that this year or next year or whenever they're going to look into the further digging. And they've all kind of come to the realization this is not the year for it.
Yeah, it's getting too late. And like I said, Rick had just said, we got to move our resources. Obviously, there's some crazy stuff going on in the swamp.
Yep.
And I think it's awesome that they're like, hey, let's step back. We're going to do a really intensive drill program, right? We're in it, as we hear him say later, it's not just about drilling to find something, but it's interpreting the data that comes out of each of those boreholes. So in the past, they've put down a borehole, and we're still having to move quickly to figure out where to put that can down. But having this extra time, they'll be able to narrow down where they want to do a big dig at.
Yeah, I think they always go into it with, the best educated guess they can do.
Well, yeah.
So.
But
I don't think it's, I don't know. I'm not there, so.
No, me either.
Like, I don't know. From my perspective, I just think doing what they're going to do with a whole bunch of sonic drilling boreholes, I don't know. It doesn't seem that dissimilar from what they had done in the past but maybe they're just going to do a whole bunch more. Because I don't know, they did that huge grid that a couple years ago. So
you mean with seismic?
No, they had a different. They had a.
I mean, they always do a lot of holes.
H8 was originally one of these micro boreholes, right? And so they did a grid of like, I don't know, what was it, like 40 or 50 of them or something. So I mean, is it that dissimilar? Don't know.
Well, if they end up triangulating off of some of this other things that they have found on other parts of the island, then yeah, it could be. I mean, it sounds like they're not going to go with Steve's plan of 200 feet
not
wide.
This year.
230 down.
Maybe next year.
We keep hearing 100 feet, and Craig's like, let's make it smaller and save money. But if they're able to really pinpoint where to put this giant hole, the pit of promise, down, then
that's in lot 15.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss it, right? I mean, if there's enough room to put a 200-foot hole in, then there's also room for a 100-foot hole, but it means there's that 100 feet to miss.
It does, and that was one of the issues I had with the honeycomb.
Yes,
because like I don't know, there's all sorts of spaces between those tubes that you can miss something in, and I think it would have only been like 80 feet wide total.
Yeah, it was like 80 or 90, and then you couldn't just leave the caissons in there. Like, you have to pull them out.
Yeah, and then they would put something temporary in it to the ones that they did
only certain ones.
Yeah, and that's not all of them. I don't know. I'm glad they're taking a good hard look at this, and I hope they discard it personally.
Yeah, me too. It sounds like that's the general consensus of the internet.
Yeah, please discard the honeycomb. We appreciate what you're doing, David Irving and Irving Equipment Limited. You guys do amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Keep it up. But the honeycomb thing, swing and a miss.
Well, what I like.
Hey, it could be the thing that finds something. But like, if they're gonna do the big dig, I mean, that's gonna be preferable.
Yeah.
You're not gonna miss something. I mean, it'd be a lot less likely.
Well, it could be 100 foot of a miss. I mean, I'm just saying.
You know what it could be? This is what it could be. Later on in this episode, we hear Corey and Maul say, "There's a menorah buried in the Oak Island swamp." So they're going to dig a 100-foot wide, 200-foot wide hole, 200 feet deep, and not find anything because it's in the swamp.
Off by an inch, off by a mile.
Yeah.
But then what I did like is like, okay, we're going to get you a bunch more information, David, because we've got this really intensive program, right?
Yep.
And Craig is like, okay, well, over the winter, you can, work on getting us, another set of plans for this next year.
For sure.
And David's like, I'll have you something by the end of the summer, like a plan. But he sounded almost relieved and excited that he could go back to the design team that had other ideas they were kicking around.
Yeah.
And it may have been when they were putting ideas together, they're like, okay, this honeycomb design, if you really want to do it this year, this is what's going to be the most cost efficient and something that's easy enough for us to do quickly versus maybe something that's got more logistical problems that they're kicking around in the design team, but they had put on the back burner.
Yeah, you're right. They can maybe hone those in and
with more time, more innovative ideas, in my opinion.
Could be.
But I'm just speculating because that is what we do on Could It Be, an Oak Island podcast.
Yeah. So they kind of wrap up that little meeting, though. They thank David for the proposals and for his time. And, it's not the last we'll see of him, I'm sure, because they've got a crane pad going in near the swamp and cofferdam and all sorts of good stuff. So.
Yep. And it was pretty much a meeting to let David down and
gently
and say, let's make a pit of promise. That's
lot 15 still.
the mega hole, right?
Yeah. So, okay. Then we're moving on to the swamp, or at least the west side of the swamp, lot 32.
I was going to say, I specifically have lot 32.
Lot 32.
A section.
Yeah. We have Gary Drayton, Peter Frenetti. They arrive in a never before explored area where they just cleared the trees. Dun dun dun. That's like Gary's favorite. That's like a kid in a candy store moment for Gary Drayton.
Where he can actually get in a new area. And we're seeing more and more of Peter this year, which I'm totally digging that he's digging.
Yeah, well, he's definitely digging because Gary gets a screamer on the metal detector, right?
We're screaming iron.
Yeah, so Peter digs it, the first one.
Can y'all dig it?
Gary reaches down and recovers an axe head with the wooden handle still in it, or at least a portion of it.
And Gary's excited.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's in great shape.
It looked like it was in really good shape. Like, stick a new handle in there. Use it today.
Yeah. But wait, there's more. They go out and do some more scanning. And a few feet away, get another screamer. Hot dog.
And then so
Peter digs it.
Yeah, so they find another axe. It looks almost exactly the same. It's got wood in the handle still. I mean, what? Two in a row?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's going to break the top pocket.
Crazy. Yeah, there was a flashback during this part where they find a rigging axe head on lot 15 in the premiere episode.
Yep.
And so they wanted to remind us of that. They got another hit, right? They Peter digs, of course, and they found another axe head with wood in the handle. I mean, the trifecta.
Yeah. Remember, so when it was on, I'm just like, it's a hat trick.
Yeah,
he's got 3 in a row.
Yeah. She's like saying that it's a hat trick of axes.
I kind of want to do the Curse of Oak Island as a like a sports announcer, like do the play-by-play. Wow! And he's got a hat trick.
Yeah.
Goal!
That's about the equivalent to a goal.
Yeah, seriously. And then we need to call in the goalie, Laird.
Yeah, and Laird's like, pretty cool. It keeps everybody's
Well, Peter says, this seems like a big deal. Yeah. Should we call Laird? And
Gary's like, full stop, let's do it.
Yeah, he says, full stop, I think we need to stand down, mate. And I was like, wow, Gary is saying this. I'm feeling the love between Gary and Laird.
He's come around.
He's like, they're like a Larry team.
Yeah. So, but one of the things, like right before they called in Laird, Gary's like, what the heck is going on here? And Peter even said, this is starting to be unbelievable. I mean, that's pretty good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. They like you said, they called in Laird. They told Laird, yo, Laird, this is like all found within a 20-foot diameter area. Like, what?
Whoa.
Must be a camp, right?
A camp or something where a lot of work was going on.
Yeah, Laird said that it certainly wasn't modern. Gary said, I knew you'd say that, mate. Okay, not without the mate, maybe. And then...
yeah, you sound just like him.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying. Yeah, Gary just noted that they looked old, they felt old, and Peter asks Laird if he's ever seen anything like this. Laird says that he's seen some axes, but not a lot. And
probably until he
Laird
got to Oak
they're
Island.
Likely forest axes, and I'm thinking kind of machete-like, kind of clear the brush and stuff.
Yeah, they need a machete later in this episode. They could have borrowed those axes.
A certain surveyor, he maybe would have needed it.
Maybe a certain digger as well.
True. True. All right, so Gary says that they were all found in one area that might indicate a camp. Laird says it's difficult to imagine how it could be anything else. And Gary says that this area is cleared and it's going to bring a lot of great rewards. So everyone was impressed with this stuff, and it's going to be on the radar going forward.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
You'd think it was hard to find more on this island.
Yeah. All right, so now we get into like really the meat and potatoes
of
this
room
episode.
Again.
The big war room for this episode.
The aligned war room.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know. What if this is like a pivotal moment for the history of Oak Island right here?
Or history as we know it.
As we know it. Could be. All right. So we had Rick, Marty, Steve, Doug, and Jack on hand, right? And we had teleconferenced in the
Corian and Chris.
Yeah.
Our specialist.
Aforementioned.
Know what made me really excited?
What?
Is when they, zoomed in, because we did the interview with them last year. Their backgrounds, their offices look the same as when they were with us. It made me feel special. Like,
Hey, we did the same.
Like
we did
they were in the
Could It Be War
same
room.
place.
We had a Could It Be War room with them.
We had our own Could It Be War room. Next time they should just send us an invite and we'll just sit there in our red chair. And
Sure, it'd be great. All right, so they do I think it was Robert Clotworthy, the narrator, did a recap of the presentation that had Busan last year. Actually, I think Corey and Chris were doing that. Chris was taking the lead on explaining the Arcadia stone in the center of the swamp. What's funny?
I just saw Corian's comment pop up. He says, "Well, I only have one house." Way to make me not feel special. Gee, thanks.
Yeah.
Way to crush my dreams. Anyways.
No, we had they were talking about how last year they overlaid the Nicholas Poussin painting on top of the swamp, aligned with Nolan's cross.
Yes.
And they drew a star, a pentagram. And in the center of all of that was the headdress that the person in the painting was wearing that had an eye on it.
That was a different painting.
Oh, was it?
That was the self-portrait.
Oh, that was, yeah.
This is when they were hitting the Arcadia.
Yeah, the woman in the paintings, her eyes still lined up with the Arcadia stone, right?
No, where they were pointing. But yes.
Well, which would be the eye of the swamp.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. See, there was an eye.
Yeah, I know. The eye indicated the eye.
Yeah. The eye of the swamp.
Eye of the swamp. Yeah. All right. So we had that going on, and they said, okay, well, what we got this year expands upon that. Right.
So they laid the framework.
Okay. So Chris tells the team that the lines that make up Nolan Cross might be pointing to something. And, so they got curious and they followed the literal axis of the cross, and they followed it straight across the curvature of the world to see where it would end up, right? And so
did you just lose everything? Well, like Chris was saying,
I got him back.
They had to assume that Nolan's cross and the lines were going to point somewhere, so they were going to be working off of that idea.
Yeah.
Right. So as they continued their research, a perfect line.
Well, before we get to the perfect line.
Oh, come on.
No. So the line that they drew straight from Nolan's cross, wrapping around the world, they found goes directly up the center of the grounds of the Palace of Versailles in France. And it doesn't, like I was telling Deidre, and her mom came over a couple days ago. I was telling her mom, like, it'd be a lot less impressive if it did still cross the palace, but it was like,
quite a bit.
Well, I mean, like, just the hit in the corner, or like, at a weird angle or something. But this, like, at least the line presented on the show, it cut straight up,
up the axis.
Yeah, well, straight up, like, I don't know, what is that, the grand entry?
I call it the front door.
Yeah, through the front door of the palace, and it's like, wow, like, I don't know, it was super impressive.
Even Marty looked impressed.
Yeah.
So that's saying something.
Yeah, so you follow it, it's like hits it perfectly, and then that's enough to blow anybody's mind.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, whoa. I mean, how can it be perfectly aligned like that?
What are the odds, right?
Odds are very, very, very small. All right. So Corian explains that the palace is the world's largest royal domain, over 2,000 acres, and built in the 17th century by King Louis XIV of France, right? So then we have Clotworthy. He explains that Chris and Corian believe that holy relics of the Knights Templar were hidden there for a period of time at the palace in France, right? And so Corian goes on to explain that they began looking at the whole domain from the air. And Chris added that they believe that the plan for the grounds of Versailles were laid out in the shape of a menorah with a tripod base. Yeah.
Confirmer.
I would like to see some of like the old images of the area. Yeah, the old plans. But I mean, what they showed on screen was pretty flipping cool.
Yeah. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I was all in.
Yeah. All right. So Corian goes on to explain more that they began looking at the. Actually, I just read that. He went on to say that they were wondering where they land if they continue the alignment to the line in the other direction, like going past the palace. And so they kept the line going, right?
Oh yeah, why not? Let's see.
Yeah. So Chris explained that not only it doesn't like land close to, it lands directly on top of the old site of the Temple of Solomon.
Oh my god!
Where all this treasure that we're looking for originally was stored and came from.
Whoa.
And like, we know that's where the Ark of the Covenant was. Like, we know that's where these menorahs were.
And then, as was presented when my mother was over the other day and her boyfriend was there, asked, well, why would it then be some little weird island over here? I said, so why would you hide it in a temple or somewhere that seems, if you're trying to hide something, maybe not like make a giant building that says, I'm here. So that's it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
giant arch.
Yeah, it's super impressive. Like, how does a straight line that goes directly up the center of this palace, like through the front door, out the back door, keeps continuing for thousands of miles to hitting the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, like literally right on top of it. That's just, it's bonkers. And
what's even more bonkers, as I was trying to wrap my head around, is let's say there's more than one story going on here, more than one treasure or whatever.
Yeah.
What are the odds that, the menorah is going to end up over on Oak Island, and then who knows what else too?
Yeah, who knows? It could be the Ark still.
And what other
that's what I'm counting on.
Pieces, like, so if Nolan's Cross, connects us to the menorah, then what other things that we have found are not connected to it, and maybe are connected to something else that had nothing to do with Nolan's Cross, that they didn't even know was there in the first place? This whole thing is just like, it's good season.
It's crazy. It's good. It's real good. I want to see next what they do with the crossbar of the cross and see where those point. The arms of the cross.
Oh, got it. Well, I mean, I don't know.
They probably don't have any significance whatsoever, because all you need is that straight line.
Exactly. Was my next thought. If you're going to go up the axis,
then... and then the crossbar of the cross is probably just symbolic, to make a cross and to make it a marker,
and to make a menorah, and to have surveying.
Well, go on, tell us about that.
Oh man, okay. Let me see if I can find all my notes.
Yeah. So Marty's impressed though.
Well, yeah,
that's the first thing. And Steve looked super excited.
Oh my gosh,
like he looked like I don't know.
Here's what I learned about Steve. Over the last couple episodes in our interviews with him, he's got a bit of Jack. Like, he's very excited.
Excitable too.
Excitable. And he sees us, he's like, that's impressive, and like turns his head around. There's really a lot of gifts to be made here, but that is one excited dude. I think he's all in for this. But Corian goes on to say that they do believe that the Knights Templar dug up Solomon's treasure.
Yep.
Consisted of at least, more than one menorah, and that one of those potentially was shipped to North America for safekeeping, perhaps buried in the Oak Island swamp. That's when Steve's excited face hops up. And Marty says, well, I hope you're right. That's for dang sure.
For sure.
I agree, Marty.
So actually, we do have famous people in the chat right now. We have Corian Mall, and he said, in actual fact, we discovered the giant menorah first. Then we spotted the line to Jerusalem, which was eerily precise. Only after that, we checked the line to the west and found the alignment with Oak Island. To our amazement, what they don't tell you on the show is that the line from Versailles to Oak Island has a small deviation of under a degree.
And you know what? That's pretty dang good.
Well,
when you didn't have GPS back then.
Well, yeah. If the people laying down these giant stones, they're probably using the stars to align it, and
I mean, they were very smart.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's literally like mind-boggling.
It is, and oh my goodness,
I love it that you can get from Nolan's Cross to Jerusalem straight up the middle of the Palace of Versailles, like straight line, a perfect line,
and
pretty good stuff.
Marty says, almost like sarcastically, "Are you going to tell us where to dig?" Corian, yes. Marty, okay, good.
I wrote that they all got giddy after that.
And Marty looks shocked, like, "Oh, well,
like for real?
Like, oh, all right,
let's dig."
And so Chris goes on to explain to us kind of how we're gonna get to these points, right?
Yeah.
The distance from the Arcadia stone to the center of the cross,
yes.
right? Of that stone. And then
you take that distance.
Yeah, hang on. Okay, you can create a circle out of that.
Which would make that the radius.
Okay. Well, yeah. And then you're gonna go out the same distance to the headstone.
Yeah.
Right? So that makes really your precise. Next circle, right? And then you've got, after that, you have the circle that encompasses the entire cross, which is going to be all those points you asked, what the arms and such are doing.
That's true.
Markers, right? So
it perfectly encircled all of it.
Yeah.
Using those measurements.
Amazing.
How does that happen if it's not intentional?
Yeah. 3 concentric circles.
Yeah, like literally, how does that happen if it's not intentional though?
Well, we already had that first pentagram from before when they had found the eye of the swamp, right?
Yeah.
And that was, that's a pretty big deal. At least I would say.
Yeah. And then, it made sense with their theory.
And then what do we do after that?
So after that, what they do is they kind of split all those circles in half to look at just the bottom half, and it created a 7 point menorah, and at least that's what it would look like using all the circles and using all those exact precise measurements. It's not like they just pulled that stuff out of thin air. That's what's impressive.
Yeah.
Like if they just pulled it out of thin air, meh. Like actually last year when they did their presentation, like I was like, why are they lining it up like that? And I thought it was just them pulling stuff out of thin air. And then we talked to them and they explained it to me and I way better understood. And this year, I think they did a much better job giving us the exact reasons for all of this stuff, because literally it's amazing because the measurements are so precise.
Yeah.
Like Deidre just pulled up an image on the other screen and I'm looking at it and it's just like, wow, really?
So sorry for those of you that are listening without audio, but I wanted to pull this up just so we had the visual. Okay. So we have the pentagram, and then we see that if we take half of those concentric circles that they had drawn, we get the menorah.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you put the pentagram in that second circle, we get these 2 points at the edge of the swamp.
Yep.
And those are their points of interest that they want them to go check out. Marty's like, just to be clear, this is like green dots. That's where you want us.
That's what you want
to go.
That is it, sir.
And they ask about, Steve asked, hey, send me all that, the geometry, et cetera, and I will mark it and we can go check them out. And they do. When they pulled up the menorah, I don't know about you, but I freaked out a bit. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it coming either. I wonder why the stem goes all the way to the beach. That's the only question I have, but maybe that's just to mark the end of the land.
Well, that's the axis.
Yeah.
Axis,
yeah.
Right. So that would come through the eye and through that center stump. Something I thought was really interesting is looking at the pentagrams within the circle, the bigger one, the smaller one, is they roughly follow, the borders seem to follow the edges of the swamp, right? Yeah. So if I'm looking at the triangle on there and I'm thinking, I wonder what's at that top axis point. I don't know. I'd kind of like to know.
I'd like to know too. And you know what? That we'll eventually know because these guys are going to go.
Oh yeah,
full
no
force
stone
into
unturned
this year.
No pun intended there.
Yeah. Like we didn't get into who asked it, but Jack asked Chris and Corian what they expect to find in this area. Will they find obvious stones or something? And Corian said they would expect a man-made feature or placement marker, or as a placement marker.
Yep.
And Marty says that they can check this out. Also says that their work is significant enough and well done enough that they're absolutely going to check out their spots. And Marty says that any dig on Oak Island is worth doing. This is definitely worth doing. Like they gave us a lot of good reasons to look in these areas.
Well, and we only get a couple minutes of their probably hours of explanation and conversations that are going on in the worm, just like with any theorists, and especially anybody that's put in this much time and work. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
and
I'm
everybody
impressed
else
too. I loved
seems to be that's on the island too, or else they wouldn't have them back.
No, seriously. Like Rick, when they did like a separate little interview with him where he's talking about a little bit of this, and he was just like, he was almost giddy, he's just really excited. It's amazing. Like if this line just goes from Nolan's Cross, and crosses these big things, and it's just, I don't know. It's like, what else can it be? But I mean, if you look at, I don't know, if you think about how big the universe is and how big creation is and all that, there's probably every possibility out there has happened or can happen at some point or something. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it could be random and just happen to be, but
crazy, like, random happenstance.
For real though, like probably not. Like it's probably all intentional or otherwise you wouldn't get such precise alignments and measurements. So
that and what happens next, right? They say, let's go explore these features after Steve has calculated them. And they do, right? So they follow up on it right away.
They're in the outskirts of the swamp. That's what I noted this area.
Yeah, I put swamp area, investigation of Corian and Chris's theory.
Okay.
I was very precise. Can I join your team? So Rick, Marty, Doug show up to meet with Steve and Billy. So Steve and Billy are already there. And Steve looks excited. And Marty's like...
He's like, oh, I found the spots. Let me show you.
He says... No, Marty says, don't tell us, because it looks like Steve's like going to burst out in pure excitement, right? This is his Jack coming out, his inner Jack. And Billy's standing there like, whatever. And
Bill's like, show me the money. And then Marty's just going to have to pull out his ball again.
Steve says, I'm not going to say anything. Okay. Just that Billy and I have cleared a path for us to walk. Some clearing. Someone needed one of those machetes found in the swamp. And Billy's in shorts, and he's gonna get his legs torn up on the way out there, even though everybody else is in jeans, but whatever.
He's fine.
So they head on out. I just had noted Steve. I would play poker with Steve because he has no poker face.
You would win all of his money.
I'd win all the monies. Billy, you can't read that guy.
Deidre can suppress a smile. She's been doing it for like 15 years.
Gee, thanks.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, my husband's a jerk. All right, so
yeah, Marty says that somebody needs to call Chris and Corey and tell them to put the X in an easier spot.
Yeah,
that was a good quip.
Yeah, that made me laugh because then Corey later had shared that clip.
Yeah,
and
I saw Chris shared it too.
And then Chris had just put a big X on a picture of Versailles.
Yeah, go search there, Marty.
Corey told him, no, they said to call Billy, but Corey's like, you can't have shorts inside, so we can't have Billy.
Billy can't go?
Billy can't go unless he puts pants on.
That's not fair.
I just lost it when I saw that, but
that's pretty
thanks for the online entertainment, guys. Yeah, that was good. So, but they get there, and there was definitely something.
Yeah, they check out the western target first, and Marty immediately recognized a spot that looked previously dug, and Steve noted an impressive mound of rocks. Steve says it looks worth investigating, and Marty agrees.
Marty, I would call that something to investigate. Marty, I call that something. And my next note says, ha, 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 ha.
That's funny.
I kind of want to see more of Steve and Marty interaction.
Yeah, they would be fun.
Steve says something and Marty's just like, oh, it's funny stuff.
Yeah, so it's labeled as the trench feature.
Yes.
And Rick asks what they're near. Steve says that they are near the paved stone area and the Arcadia Point.
Mm-hmm.
Marty tries to go through the brush to check out the area that looks like it was dug. Rick is super impressed with finding exactly where Chris and Corian said it would be. Says that it was unique.
I guess my notes are a bit more sarcastic than yours.
Probably.
I wrote, Marty climbs in to get a look. Is he playing hide and go seek? I've never known him to just jump in. Like this feels like something Rick would do. Like climb a tree and get in there, right?
Sure.
But Rick's standing back, being all
Rick's the Marty.
Yeah.
Marty's the Rick.
There was some Freaky Friday stuff going out. But as Marty points out, that pile of spoils looks more or less to be what would have come out of that trench.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
It made me laugh to see Marty climb a tree.
Mm-hmm. And then Doug said he was expecting to see a large boulder or something, but that they needed to look for something unusual, and that what they're finding fits the bill.
Yep.
So Rick agrees. He says that they've entered into the realm of unknown possibilities.
Yeah, great quote.
Yeah, it says that they need to let the science talk.
Beside the realm of unknown possibilities, probably an actual place, and the entrance is through the ice holes. Good old Oak
It's all about the ice holes.
I might be.
All right. So then Doug again says that he knows a guy that could possibly test the sediments and tell them how old it is. Hey, this guy, I know this guy, this one guy. He likes to work in swamps.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, I think we might know someone. And everyone's like, oh, yeah.
Rick got the trivia question right.
Good job, Rick.
He wins the prize because it's Dr. Spooner, right?
Yes, it is. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, Rick says they will dig it, but for right now, Steve, you're the man of the hour, the man of action, and you got to do what you do. Take elevations, figure out its orientation, determine its relevance to the features they already know about in the swamp, and then at some point, they'll get to the bottom of what the structure is.
No pun intended. It made me, I was like, wow, that's a lot of pressure. Make sure you get it all right, Steve.
Yeah. And then, but that sounds like slow going to Marty. Because Marty's like, yo, big bro.
As he climbs out of the tree.
He says, remember, Rick, this is not the Fellowship of the Trowel. Okay. This is the Fellowship of the Dig.
I laughed right on spot.
I did too. And even like Rick had a smile on his face too, but he's like, well, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
So he thinks that they should proceed cautiously.
Yeah. The Fellowship of the Trowel. Mm-hmm. So we got the Trowel team versus the Dig team. I mean, they both jig. They both dig.
They both do a jig together?
They both dig just with different size shovels.
Yeah. They do, but I mean, I don't know. Whatever. They'll get to the bottom of it.
Let's get her done.
Even if it takes a little longer, they'll get to the bottom of it.
Let's see here.
Well, Steve then kind of wrapped up that area, I think, and he said that he thinks that Chris and Corian were onto something.
Yep.
And Marty then asked Steve if he had another spot to show him. Steve said, "Yep." And so let's go.
Yeah.
And
follow me.
Yeah, then they have the follow. They were playing hide and seek earlier. Now they're playing following the leader.
Right, following the leader. And this is where the Fellowship begins their following of Steve.
Yeah, Steve is the new Gandalf, apparently.
Apparently. So I had made this design earlier in the year with everybody following Gandalf, and I kind of had Steve towards the back of it. And now I didn't know it, but I guess I have to move Steve up to the front with Gandalf because they did a lot of following Steve this episode.
They did. Well, he's the guy with the X marks the spots, apparently.
Do you think he
interprets the X marks the spots and puts them on?
Did he part the swamp waters with his staff?
He should have.
To get to the other side so he didn't have to make them walk.
He probably didn't, but he probably should have.
Probably should have.
He doesn't want to reveal his true powers yet.
His true powers.
Yeah, so Steve leads on over to the eastern side of the swamp on the border of lot 12 and 13. Marty asks, in that hollow right there? And then Steve says, yeah, in this area. I'll just go stand on it. Marty says, that'll be great. Steve says, Steve like gets into the brush, you know, he's like all like trying to dodge the.
Because it's not a little guy either. Like he's very tall.
And he says, it's in this small clearing over here.
You're a true optimist, Steve, to call that a clearing.
Hey, well, Marty's the one that pointed it out and said that's a hollow, you know, so that's like a synonym. Marty called it that first.
Steve is like climbing through the trees and he's like in his little hollow. And then you see
I'm in the clearing, guys.
You see him get out later, and as he's talking, he's like picking pieces of tree like out of the back of his shirt. I'm going, that wasn't a clearing, Steve.
That was pretty good. All right, so Marty says that the eastern side that Corian and Chris wanted them to search had been manipulated, likely by bulldozers from Fred Nolan, to build the peninsulas in the swamp.
Correct.
So,
yes, but at least we had the feature on the other side, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep, for sure. And Marty says that they need Dr. Spooner to go into this thing on the western side of the island before they disturb it. And then what they're going to do is go to the eastern side and dig it up. Like that's the game plan.
Yeah. So these have been dubbed like the East Hill and the West Hill.
Sure.
So, anyways, something Steve had mentioned was what we're going to learn. We're going to learn a lot from the West Hill location because according to Chris and Corian's theory, they would have been placed at the same time as like directional markers, right? So the more we learn about West Hill, it's going to relate to what could be a missing feature on the east side.
Could be.
So
you see who just joined the chat?
I did, because I also saw my phone start blowing up with hearts.
Oh, so that must mean Scott Barlow's in the chat.
Scott is here. He actually is in the chat, and he says, I'm not sure how I got here. I was watching our news briefing, because we are your news briefing, Scott.
Yeah. You know, if Scott was operating the excavator instead of Tom Nolan, he probably wouldn't have broke it.
I don't know about that. I mean.
Wow. Where was Billy? I thought Billy was right there. Oh no, they came back to that later.
Billy is busy.
Billy was busy.
Okay.
Well, it's Tom's land, so I mean, might as well let Tom do what he wants to do.
Seriously, he's probably got an excavator nearby. Sure.
Yeah. So, anywho, Dr. Spooner arrives the next day to do his thing.
At
collect
lot
his
11,
sample.
right?
Yeah. I thought it was on the western side.
Yeah, which is at lot 11.
No, that's like
it's the West Hill.
That's the east side. I don't know. My note said western side too, so I don't know.
The West Hill is where they gotta take a sample because the thing exists.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so it's Tom's land, I assume.
He's there.
Dr. Spooner, Doug, Steve, all there.
Tom
asked Doug if he's the designated tree cutter. Doug says, guess so.
I guess so.
So I guess I'd.
Yeah.
Trees.
So Dr. Spooner fills him in with the plans, what he's doing, and he says, "You guys, when I'm in here, I might sink. Okay, if I sink, I'm gonna need help to get out."
And it seems like we'll get you out.
it didn't sound like very
convincing.
Yeah. I mean,
and Spooner's like, "Will you?
Will you please?" Yeah.
And all I can think of is the never-ending story where the horse gets stuck and he like drowns.
In the pit. That's like, I think that's literally the pit of despair. I think that's why Artax dies in the never-ending story.
Well, it feels like we need a side by side.
They lose hope in the pit of despair, and he sinks into that swamp. And Atreyu's like, "Artax, no!" like grabbing him, trying to pull him out. Okay, Atreyu, you might be some kind of warrior child, but you're not gonna pull a horse out of like a quicksand tar pit.
So are swamp, you telling me Spooner is Artax and Steve is Atreyu?
Steve is Atreyu.
I'm sure people get them confused all the time.
Oh my gosh. Steve's about my age, so he probably grew up loving the Neverending Story. He probably would love to have been Atreyu as a child. Okay.
Would he?
Would he? Yeah, I would have been Atreyu.
Oh.
Get right on Falcor.
Falcor. I mean, nothing's off limits on Oak Island. Might as well find a luck dragon.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So Dr. Spooner, he uses his gravity cord to get the sample he needs, right?
Of algae and goo that's hopefully collecting in the bottom.
And sediment.
Mm-hmm.
Tom thinks he might get a full cord due to the depth.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Spooner's preliminary analysis of the sediment, because he literally gets the full core.
Yeah.
And he says
in the first shot.
Yeah, he says it goes back several hundreds of years. So already mind blown. Chris and Corey, you're onto something, guys.
So in general, Spooner says that 10 centimeters equals about 100 years. That's in general.
Ish.
Yeah, 100 years-ish. This is Oak Island. We never know.
Yeah, Doug plans on draining this area and clearing the limbs off the trees with Tom's permission. Tom says, sure. And this is going to be done while they wait for further analysis from Ian Spooner. Then the focus shifts over to the eastern side of the swamp, where we have Rick, Marty, Tom, Doug, Steve, Alex, and Gary on hand. That's a motley crew.
That is a motley crew. We just keep going between these mounds. But this one is like a flattened mound. Let's see here. Gary and Doug are both at a 6 on a scale from 1 to 10 as to whether or not they believe something is possibly there.
Yeah, well, also Rick, before that, he says that they are grateful, very grateful that Tom is a significant partner with them now. And especially so I was happy to hear that, because it's just like, there's a lot going on in the swamp, and nothing would be happening in the swamp if they didn't have Tom as a partner. So I'm glad he joined.
Yeah, and as he points out, Tom he's got perspective. Like, if something's going on in the area, he can say maybe why his father was interested in that particular swamp feature, or if he had records of anything there. So I don't know. I'm with you. We've seen more Tom, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. So back to Doug saying that he thought it was about a scale of 1 to 10 of a 6 or so, just like Gary. I mean, that's better than the other side of 5, right? But
it's above 50%.
Knowing what they know about the western side, I mean, my percentage would be a bit higher.
Well, and it's more or less, is there something still there? Because if all this was the fill dirt, which it looks like was pushed in, then is there still information there to be gathered, right? Was, for all we know, what we're looking for pushed out onto the peninsula? Or
could be.
I mean, it's not going to be in the exact spot, but
yeah. So Doug also noted that Corey and Chris are 2 for 2 in getting them to man-made intervention spots, the Arcadia Stone and the West Hill, and they've both been manipulated by man. Well, he's 3 for 3 now, because this area has been manipulated by Fred Nolan.
And he's a man.
He definitely is. All right, so Marty says, let's make it 3 for 3, and let's quit jawboning and let's dig.
Thanks, Marty. We can always count on you to tell him to get back to work.
Yeah, so Tom begins excavating.
Yep.
Gary's scanning the spoils. Tom hits a large rock. Gary says, there's definitely something interesting in Corey and Chris's spot. And I think it went to commercial. But when it came back, Steve says that one of the things they were told would they might find a boulder with a marking, and they pulled out that rock. And Steve Guptill, surveyor, he's like, whoa, look at this rock, guys.
History Channel totally duped me. So I totally was all in for the next time on when Steve's like, look, there it is.
Where have we heard this before, though? Whoa, guys, look. Oh, it's a rock.
So they pull out the rock.
Sorry, Steve.
And Steve asks Tom to, place it over by him and Marty.
Yeah.
And they start investigating.
Oh, yeah.
And we see the moment where Steve, puts his X on it as he's looking for it.
He's looking for a marking, yes.
And I thought it was Marty who said it was from Tom. But it ends up Steve corrects himself and says, that looks like it's from Tom. And he wipes it off his His ex.
Yeah. But
he changed his mind.
It was pretty good for a TV, like something to draw viewers in.
Totally.
Yeah. Steve asked Tom to get to sea level about 3 feet deeper than he's at that point because they want, it's like, hey, might as well keep going, keep looking. Rick notes that this is the easiest dug through soil that he's ever seen on Oak Island.
Yeah,
like
because it's been like manipulated and
yeah, it was like powder. You know, you could move it real easy.
Yeah, Doug's noticing that the soil is changing the deeper they get, right?
Yeah,
which is what they want.
Yeah, and so suddenly it just wasn't so easy anymore.
Yeah.
The Tom continues digging and gets stuck on something, and pop goes the hydraulic line.
Yeah. And when I saw the camera shot and they were looking down and I'm seeing water, what I thought was water, I was like, did someone really just bust a water line? You didn't call before you dig, and no, that wasn't the case. I'm thinking, why is there a water line there? No, of course, it's a busted hose from the hydraulic fluid.
Well, that's the island fighting back.
It is, and apparently it was mad at Steve because it just sprayed him.
He's like, where's this coming from?
He didn't even move.
He's like,
he just was standing in the same spot. He goes, I wondered what I was getting sprayed with. Like, I'm glad it wasn't acid or something. Jeez.
Yeah, so Doug says Oak Island just threw them a curveball. Tom says, I guess they have to pack it up. They're done. And they say, Steve tells him, good job. But
good job, Tom.
Yeah, he's like, good job, Tom. He's made it so we're all just like, have nothing to do now. But as they're like walking away, we get classic Oak Island right there. Oak Island.
They just leave it there. Tom went back to the house, got on Amazon, ordered a new hose. I noted that Alex practically ran over when it busted, and you could see his engineer head going and thinking about what was broken, and everybody agreed. So when the new part shows up, they can keep digging. But my question is, why didn't they just call in the trowel team so they could see the rock? I mean, they all have little shovels. I don't think I would have been willing.
I think it's because those areas, like that area in particular, they knew had been heavily manipulated by Fred Nolan. So that's like a deterrent for archaeologists. Like,
okay, what about the Jack 6000?
Okay.
Like, back it up and someone let Jack get in there with his claws and pull out the giant boulder. I'm sure it won't like roll out and crush him or anything.
I'm sure it won't.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
He doesn't need hydraulic fluid.
He doesn't. He just needs
water,
food and water to keep going. That's his hydraulic fluid. All right. So that's the end of searching out Corey and Chris's spots, at least in this episode.
At least for now. Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to be coming back to them. Plus, they're doing so much in the swamp this year, so we'll hear more. So, hey, Corey and Chris, great job, man. I loved it. I loved all that you guys did.
I get a feeling we're going to see him again later this year, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully we see him on the podcast at some point, too.
Oh, we will. We will.
Yeah. All right, so then we head over to the Oak Island Research Center.
Yes.
And this is kind of where we wrap up the episode. Steve videos in to a meeting with Ian Spooner and Tom Nolan. Or they're with him.
Yeah.
And Rick, Peter, Marty, Alex, and Jack are on the other side in the not in the war room. They're like at home.
They're at home. Yeah.
And Ian Spooner says, or he's there to give scientific analysis from the core on lot 11. Is that what you said earlier? Yeah, you did say lot 11.
That's right, because my notes are highly accurate.
Yeah.
Even though they take longer.
Closer. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't know what you were thinking.
Well, you were right.
I know. Should I pull up the lot line map?
No, I'm good. All right. So Marty asks for the dimensions of the area they're looking at. Steve says that it's 60 feet long by 15 feet wide with an elevation gain of about 4 feet. So that's 3,600 cubic feet of volume in this area. What's funny?
I just laugh because Marty just wants like the basic dimensions.
Yeah.
Steve goes, it's 60 feet long, 15 feet wide, almost 4 feet of elevation. So, he thinks this is approximate, right? So it's about 3,600 cubic feet. And
Marty's like, dude, you could have stopped at 60 feet by 15 feet.
Everybody on the other side of the screen is chuckling because they should have known that was the kind of dimensions they were going to get from the royal cartographer.
Yeah, he took it like 3 steps too far, but that's fine.
I don't know what
I appreciate all of it.
3,600 cubic feet looks like.
Well, it's 60 feet long, 15 feet wide, 4 feet high. Now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think in cubic feet. Do you?
No, I don't. But
maybe
Steve
we should
Guptill
try that.
does.
Apparently.
Yeah. Ian says that sorry. Ian says that it's definitive that this thing is disturbed and it's a manipulated site.
Mm-hmm.
Tom says it's 100% man-made, yo. There's no two ways about it.
Tom, in this moment,
yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, he has like this air of like, oh, I love hearing that stuff. You know, my dad was right. You know,
yeah, that's gonna be a perfect gift.
Yeah,
I
loved it too.
It was just like, it's gotta feel good when your dad put that much work into the swamp and you're finally, you know, both sides are collaborating, right?
Yeah.
And all working towards this one thing, and to get some confirmers for all the time you spent in there. Like that feels good.
Feels real good. So Marty says that this is exciting and amazing stuff. He's also amazed that it's remained hidden on the island with all the scrutiny that's been all around it for, you know, hundreds of years.
I concur. That's crazy.
Yeah. Ian Spooner's main interest is if it was old or young, like from the 1900s or much older, right? So his way of dating it is by looking at the sediment, and there's a good 30 centimeters in the core that he took back to his lab. And he tells them that what they're looking at is something that is possibly at least 3 centuries old.
Yeah. Whoa.
I mean, that's like that's like 1700-ish.
So
that's like almost 100 years before the discovery of the money pit.
That's just, how is this hole in the ground gone that long without
being noticed?
Yeah. Like, or pointed out as like some kind of feature. Because if I look at old, like I went back to more recent and some older aerial footage, and there's, you know, if I know what I'm looking for and where, I can definitely see what they're talking about. It's just a little crazy to me.
Yeah. So that information wowed Alex Lagina, right?
Yeah.
Rick said that someone went through a great effort to dig that spot.
Yeah.
And that he hopes that they figure out its purpose. And he also says, you just wait till we dig that up.
And Rick says this has all the possibility of a recipe. Whoa. My notes are crazy.
Rick says that they got the right people to look into this, and it's a great recipe for an aha moment.
Thank you. I don't know why possibly is in my notes. I was like, something is really wrong here. Rick speaks much more eloquently than that.
Yeah, it's okay. You got me. I got your back.
Thanks. And Marty, well, 2020 is shaping up to be a year that things come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Out of the woodwork, out of the oak work.
Yeah. Ian wrapped up his little portion by saying that this is a major feature. He'd like to get a mini excavator in there and dig another trench across it, the feature. And he also talked to Tom about draining the trench, the deeper part, and see what's at the bottom of it. So,
and Rick, I think we're about to be woken up to the real mystery of Oak Island.
Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa.
And then that is it, actually.
That is. And then we get a next time on.
I didn't see any next time ons. Maybe I did a little bit during Beyond Oak Island, but I don't recall it because I haven't watched it.
So we got a next. I watched it directly through the history app. So when you do that, it brings up the next time on right away instead of making you go to Beyond Oak Island. So that's a fun little treat. And then just yesterday, they uploaded a preview for next week, which is called the Master Plan.
Ooh, the Master Plan. I like hearing that.
Okay, so next week for the Master Plan, for the next time on, we see Choice Drilling coming across the causeway. Cool. Yeah, Choice is back.
Sweet.
Excavator at the trench feature at the West Hill.
Okay.
So we see that's
Look at
happening.
That. Immediately following up. Good job, guys.
Immediately. Let's see here. Doug says they are back to the possibility that the treasure hunt has been going on longer than they ever imagined. Change in history here.
Dang, man. I don't know. Last year they were imagining 1200s with the paved stone area. Wow.
Maybe they get confirmers.
Yeah.
And we get a shot of stones laid in such a way, in my opinion, that looks like the paved feature in the swamp.
Where was it at?
I'm not positive. I think it was when they were digging the trench.
Oh.
So somewhere near over there.
Crazy.
A shot of Xena's map and the anchors, right? So we've got a couple theorists here that are back, and that kind of shows up on the preview too, which I'll talk about. And Doug, it's almost like there's a master plan for all those features.
Uh-oh. He's going to find the hatch. You find Desmond in there pressing the button
right
every like 128 minutes or whatever it is.
We see Marty, Steve, Alex, Gary, and Jack out looking for these anchors.
Okay.
And we hear Steve saying, take a look at that.
Take a look.
And that they had found they were looking at a boulder or whatever and looking for particular anchors, right?
Okay.
So
what's an anchor?
As a surveyor, he would be looking for okay, let me back up. So like when you're doing property lines or surveying, you have to have a starting point. You have to have a point of origin or a point of beginning. In my area, we usually know it as a point of origin, and that is within your legal description.
Okay.
And there might be a survey marker there for the larger area. So what they're saying, the anchor is going to be your starting point. Okay. So we know, say like over at the McGinnis Foundation, over at, I say that because of David McGinnis. Look what's going on here. Over at lot 15, we had found that piece that looks like you would stick the staff of Ra into, or the survey post, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, all these different drilled holes throughout the island don't really make sense unless you have a point for them to start from. Where are you going to go if you don't have a starting point, point of origin and origination? That's what potentially they're saying the anchors are. It would be another term for that. So it looks like there's two anchors on the north and south side that would have been indicated. And that's what they're looking for here. So with the preview in the master plan, it appears that the theorists with Xena's map are talking about being able to triangulate the location of the money pit, because if you have those anchor points, then you can start tying in these other points where you've got the drilled stones and triangulating where you're supposed to go. So unless you know, like I said, got to start somewhere in order to finish somewhere. And that looks like it blows Rick's mind.
Wow. Cool. So they're going to use these areas to triangulate. They're looking for these anchors. And then once they do triangulate, they say, okay, we're going to dig here. And they're like, oh, but then there's the solution channel beneath us and pushed everything. Ah, shucks. Let's just dig a big giant hole.
Well, they're going to calculate where it would have. If you can calculate where it would have originally been, could you potentially calculate where it would have moved to based off the information you have about the solution channel, and where you know something like the the chapel vault, if you know where it is now and how far it's moved over these different years, if you know where it started.
They don't know where the chapel vault is. That's what they're looking for.
You know approximately what it. Have you looked at the maps that say?
Are you talking about the chapel shaft?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't know.
They know where that is. Okay, they don't know. But if they knew where the vault was, man, they'd be like going all over. Yeah, you know, that's what they want.
But they're also thinking it went deeper. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to be really important to at least know where the original starting, where the money pit would have started, right? If anything, just for historical context.
Cool. Hey, why don't you save the rest of that for the live stream tomorrow?
Because there will be other people. Calm down. I'm almost
Okay.
done. So we do get a shot of Steve leading his people around the island.
I guess it's not tomorrow, it'll be the day after tomorrow.
And he leads them to what they're saying is the North Anchor. So it looks like they find what might be the 2 anchor points. And Marty says, that's the anchor stone. I can buy that. So Marty is buying into something. Gary finds something. I think I sent you a screenshot of it. I'm going, it either looks like the front of a chest, like lock, or a belt buckle.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out.
Cool. Well, hey, that's what they're looking for, right?
Yes, and this is all my speculation based off of snippets of information. But last week, they also had me convinced that Steve found something important on the rock that
he found a rock.
Tom Nolan scratched. He said he found less rocks last year, so I don't know.
He finds bigger rocks this year.
He just finds bigger ones. He does, actually, because if he finds 2 rocks next episode.
Yeah, he finds big rocks. He's moved on. He's moved on from the tiny little rocks.
Steve rocks.
Yeah, Steve does rock. All right, so great episode.
Fantastic.
Lots of fun. I enjoyed it immensely. Time. You know, Corian and Chris's theory was mind-blowing. Whoa, can you calm down over there with your paper?
Sorry, I'm just all calmed up.
See, that's why you should do it digitally like me. You don't have to worry about like a...
I do, and then I print it because some of us need the tactile stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you. All right.
Yeah,
so,
good
hey,
for me.
Really cool. Really awesome. Let's go ahead and talk about Clotworthies.
Yes.
Last week, we had 2 Clotworthy contenders. And one of them won. One of them was triumphant over the other. Which one was it?
Let's see here.
A pathway or a track leading from the swamp to the stone structure on lot 15.
A pathway or a track? Yeah, it beat the coin.
Yeah. So on Twitter, it was actually split 50-50.
Oh, that's right.
But it was dominated on Facebook for the what was it, pathway or track?
Yeah, pathway or track.
Yeah.
Obviously, it really struck a chord with you.
No, it's good. I liked it a lot. But like, I think so. The way that we vote on Facebook now, you can see what other people had voted before you even make your choice. So I think that might have influenced people to vote on it because they're like, "Oh, that one's in the lead. I'm going to vote for the winner." Well, or maybe they really like that one. I don't know, because it was just weird that it was like so lopsided on Facebook when
it's a different audience.
On Twitter, it was tied right up the middle.
Well, Twitterverse was divided, so the Faceverse decided to fix it.
All right. Well, good job to that Clotworthy clip. It was a lot of fun.
Woo, woo.
All right, so
we have 2 new ones this week.
What's going up against each other this week?
Okay,
I'm excited to hear because there's good Clotworthies this time.
Clotworthy 1.
Another, even larger boulder. Could it have been placed there, perhaps to cover something of great importance and value?
Another boulder,
even larger than the first one.
To boulderly go.
Yeah,
is it covering something? Maybe.
The world may never know.
Or we might.
We might find out next week.
When the hydraulics are fixed or they brought in the trial team.
Cool. All right. So what is that one going up against?
A perfect line, starting at the site of the original Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, leading straight through the Palace of Versailles, and finally landing on Oak Island.
Whoa. A perfect line?
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, for alignment.
Yeah. All right, so those are the choices.
Yes.
What we're going to do is we're going to put them up on Facebook in our Facebook group, not our Facebook page. So go to facebook.com/OakIslandPodcast, search the groups, join that group, and you can vote.
Yep.
And you can also go to Twitter at Oak Island Pod.
Yep.
Find us at Oak Island Pod on Twitter, and you can vote there as well. And hopefully we'll have those up later today. And that's kind of it. Do we have anything else going on?
I'm trying to think. No. So I would like to give a shout out to our group in general. You guys, you're a blast. Always got something good going on. We had a post in there. I cannot remember who put it up, but it was fantastic. asking people to describe something in their day, but in like a Robert Clotworthy voice and description. You all read those in his voice, because I did, and I was just rolling. You guys are really good at this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. And I noticed yesterday there was a post from our friend Amy that she had a dream with,
right.
with that she was hanging out with Rick Lagina, and Rick Lagina had braces on when he smiled at her, and he had a stalk of broccoli stuck in his braces. So
apparently a lot of people based off that thread had dreams that included the Curse of Oak Island. You guys are great. You're right. I love all the positivity that comes in through the group. It's been really fun. A great way for those of you, especially that show up in the lives, to interact with each other, and us to be able to interact with you. So if you haven't joined our group yet, it'd be a good time. So could it be an Oak Island group?
Yeah, could it be an Oak Island group? Yeah, we had some other good recent.
It was Susan.
Yeah, Susan. She had.
That's the one I was just talking about.
The Clotworthy moment. Her example was a smoke alarm going off. Could it be that someone unintentionally burned something on the stove in the middle of the day, and now they're airing out the house with the fans on? Dun dun dun.
It pretty just good. Totally, like, all through my day, I'm narrating in my head. Laundry? Why is there so much?
Yeah.
Where did it all come from?
Yeah, we have other recent posts by Linda, and Anne Marie's always sharing stuff to the group. And Jeff said that he ordered himself an Oak Island 2021 calendar from the Friends of Oak Island. That was a promotion they just started. So go check them out and order a calendar. Support the Friends of Oak Island. But yeah, other than that, we do have one review from Apple Podcasts to read.
Really?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so this is from...
You sure it's for us? Is it a good one?
I think it's a good one. I don't know. After I get done reading it, you decide if it's for us or not, okay?
Okay.
It's 5 stars, so that's good. It's from Barbs1313. It says, so great. This podcast is the perfect combination of interesting information and humor. Not only that, they host trivia every week that is a ton of fun. You can even win prizes. I look forward to both each week. Be sure to check it out. You'll be hooked, not only on the Oak Island mystery, but on the 2 great people and their discussion and trivia. So how about that?
Oh, that is great.
I think they're talking about us.
It was definitely about us. And
cool. Well, thanks, Barbs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And trivia is on Monday night.
Yeah, and we don't have any more. Like, that's the last review. What is it? Apple Podcast review that we have on the list to read. So if you want to spread the love, go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be
and
fabulous.
We can read it on the air. Something that we didn't have this time is we didn't have any voicemails or emails.
Sad.
So, can you give the email info real quick?
Yeah, so our email is OakIslandPodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, so we usually get stuff when I post that on the page or on the group that we're going to do a podcast, and then that reminds people. So I'll try to do that again this next week. Also, you could call our Oak Island Podcast phone line, 360-836-4549. And then you can leave us a message, and if it's fun, we'll play it on the air.
They usually are.
Yeah, one other thing is Patreon. Patreon.com/Oak Island Podcast. If you enjoy what we do, you can support us there. And, with a monetary monthly donation to the podcast, it helps us refill our trivia prizes. And, if once we get more and more, we'll be able to upgrade our equipment and stuff. So anything you can give to that, we would super appreciate it.
The website and
everything costs money.
Yeah, it does.
We literally put, I don't know, probably thousands of dollars into this, just being honest, and got nothing back, and that's fine. That's we knew that going into it. But if you wanted to give
Patreon,
us, yeah. I mean, we've had people give back, but we've literally put in way more, and that's fine because that's literally what we expected.
Yep.
But if you guys want to give back and help us out, that would be really appreciated. We'd love it. So that's at patreon.com/Oak Island Podcast. And you can subscribe to any level there. And we just give you hearts from us.
Hearts from us.
Hearts from us. So is there anything else to chat about? Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't shout out our Instagram. You can find us at Oak Island Podcast. Really original.
And Facebook at Oak Island Podcast, right?
And our
and
website.
YouTube. You can go look at YouTube.
Yeah, we're on there too.
Yeah, we don't get much traction on YouTube because we don't know how to work it, but we're there. So that's youtube.com/ you guessed it, Oak Island Podcast. All right. So is that it?
That's it.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see what else Chris and Corian come up with. They were a lot of fun to watch on this week's episode. I hope we get to see them again this season. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun episode.
It was
mind blowing. So
until next time.
Could it be?
I think our work here is done.